National Cancer Institute will sponsor the 20th Annual Casual Colon Cancer Awareness Saves Lives Day to increase colon cancer awareness throughout Northeast Pennsylvania. And whereas Casual Day was established to Phillips, who fought a courageous battle against colon cancer and died in the summer of 2002. Now, therefore, we, the Luzerne County Council, do hereby urge residents of Luzerne County and all of northeastern Pennsylvania to be screened for early detection of colon cancer, participate and support the Northeast Regional Cancer Institute in its colon cancer awareness efforts, and designate the month of March as Colon Cancer Awareness Month and March 28, 2024 as Casual Day in Luzerne County. Okay. All right, thank you. Are there any deletions or additions to the voting session agenda?
I'll make a motion that we adopt the agenda.
Motion, is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is adopted. We'll now have public comment on agenda items only, please. Is there anybody who would like to comment on agenda items? We don't have any slips, do we? Anybody on the Zoom? All right, no public comment. Moving along. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the February 27th, 2024 voting session.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion, second by Mr. Sabatino. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Minutes are approved. Number 1, motion to adopt resolution approving the sale of certain parcels of property held in repository by Elite Revenue Solutions, LLC, acting as Luzerne County Tax Claim Bureau. Motion and a second. Roll call, Ms. Lawrence.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski?
Yes.
Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry? Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Number 2, motion to adopt the resolution authorizing the county manager to execute an agreement with Top Business Solutions for print management service.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, Ms. Lawrence.
Ms. Krishnowski?
Yes.
Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Number 3, motion to adopt resolution approving a modification to an American Rescue Plan Act funds awarded project for Yatesville Borough.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. Roll call, Ms. Lawrence.
Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry? Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Number 4, motion to adopt the resolution approving a modification to an American Rescue Plans Act fund awarded project for mental health and developmental services.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, Ms. Lawrence.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry? Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski?
Yes.
Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Number 5, motion to adopt the resolution approving a modification to an American Rescue Plan Act funds awarded project, Luzerne County Flood Protection Authority.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski?
Yes.
Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Number 6, motion to adopt the resolution approving a modification to an American Rescue Plan Act funds awarded project for the Lower South Valley Land Bank.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
No.
Ms. Krishnowski?
Yes.
Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
10 yes, 1 no, pass.
Number 7, motion to adopt the resolution approving a modification to an American Rescue Plan Act funds awarded project for the Sanitary Sewer Authority of the Borough of Shikshini.
So moved.
moved.
There's a motion and a second. Roll call?
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski?
Yes.
Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry? Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Number 8, motion to adopt the resolution approving a proposed memorandum of agreement between Luzerne County and AFSCME District Council 87.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, Ms. Lawrence?
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski?
Yes.
Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Number 9, introduction of ordinance by county manager, the budget amendment for the Luzerne County Correctional Facility.
It's automatically. We don't need a vote.
We
Oh.
don't, we don't vote on that right
Oh, okay. I apologize.
Introducing an ordinance for the correctional facility. We received a grant from
PCCD.
PCCD grants, and the warden and Michelle Sparich are here, and they can speak to the particulars of the grant.
Good evening. Manager Crocomo, county council members, good evening. So we did have the opportunity to receive a grant for COVID mitigation through PCCD. It's coming from the CDC. And what we're going to be able to do and what was approved in the project is 2 different items. One item is for air filtration. I believe that there's a packet there, but it is, we had during COVID initially had an opportunity to have some air filtration put in there, but as anyone who knows who's been inside of the facility, it's an older facility. It's great to have moving air and good to have really good technology for the staff and for the inmates. So we're very excited for the opportunity that this grant's going to present. And this active pure technology basically is an air and surface purification system. And what it will do is there will be mobile units and there will be induct units. And the technology is pretty fascinating. And if it's available online to see. It basically takes everything out of the air within an hour, everything. And so what it scrubs everything during air, from the air. Devices with the certified space technology have been approved by both laboratory and field testing to actively reduce bacteria, virus, mold, spores, VOC gases in indoor spaces, mold, mildew, and so that's why we're pretty excited about this opportunity. The second part of the grant that was approved is for utilization for a technology that's up and coming in facilities, and it's basically called an XK 300 sensor. They're a sensor that will be placed in the high-risk housing unit cells. The sensor will go on the wall. It's outside of the inmate's ability to get a hold of it. And when the sensors are on, they will monitor heart rate, respiratory rate, movement, and also they'll have a panel in our control that will be, it's very simple, red, green. So if there's not movement in the cell, it will go red. This doesn't take the place of our rounds, but it just enhances, and it's another layer for us to do and respond to the needs that we have every day, that our staff has, to keep the inmates safe through the care, custody, and control. So that's why we're excited about having this opportunity with this grant from PCCD. So.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wilbur. All right, moving on to number 10, the introduction of the ordinance for, by the county manager for the budget amendment and the Hazleton Exchange. Manager Crocomo.
Thank you. The county owns a building called the Broad Street Exchange in Hazleton, and previously we had property managers who basically oversaw the building and had the funds in their accounts. We are going to manage that building, and so we need to make a budget amendment so that we can create a line item, and we needed to open up a bank account to put the monies in and pay the bills. We're excited about it. There are some improvements that need to be made at the building, but we are very optimistic that that building will generate income for us. We have multiple tenants in that building, and one is the Luzerne County Community College. I don't know if Ms. Pecora has anything that she wants to add.
Good evening, council. So the building on Broad Street, it's a great facility. So the college is in there. We have a few tenants. They're like their own little community. It's really a great place to be. There are, we did meet with the prior building manager, and there are some improvements that are going to need to be done in the building, but it is a great resource. It's, if I encourage you all to go visit if you're ever down in the south part of the county. With that, we do need to create a budget for the revenue and the expenses that will be anticipated for this building.
Any questions?
I have a quick question. I just thought it up here. So there was a manager of that building, he's no longer there, correct?
Correct.
Were we paying the salary of that person in the past?
We were.
Do you have any idea how much that was?
Caitlin, do you know
Anybody?
what it is offhand, what we were paying before?
I mean, I don't like to put you on the spot.
No,
I was
that's-
just
it's okay.
curious. Because now we won't have to be paying that person, correct?
Correct. So we have a cleaning company that came in the meantime. That was first and foremost, you know, cleanliness of the building,
Okay.
Safety. So the cleaning company that's in there now, they're just on a temporary basis. It was kind of an emergency situation, so we brought them in. We're going to see how it goes, and we'll have to get prices for cleaning, obviously, and then we'll see if we need to go with like a building manager or something of that nature. So we're still doing an assessment on the needs of the building.
Okay,
Okay.
No, that's
We
fine.
can get
Thank
that
you.
information for you.
that's fine, thank you.
Sure. Anyone else?
Thank you. All right, number 11, motion to adopt the resolution to abate delinquent Luzerne County taxes for the property located at 90 Plank Street, Jenkins Township.
Motion.
Motion and second by Ms. Stevenson. Roll call, Ms. Lawrence.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski?
Yes.
Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott? Mr. Perry? Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
All right, thank you. Before we get into public comment, council would just like to quickly recognize a couple of our 911 center employees for what they do every day, basically, is very heroic things. But in one particular incident recently, two of our fire trucks in the county actually collided with each other, responding to a pretty serious house fire. And one of our employees, Gina, was working, filling in as a telecommunicator, I believe, and then took over a supervisory role so that we can kind of keep things going and flowing in a good direction during, you know, a very intense situation. So we just want to quickly thank her, and if there's anything else that anybody would like to add.
We'd also like to thank Joe Kozlowski, who was the initial telecommunicator and flagged Gina to come over and take over and make sure assets got to where they needed to go. And I believe Ms. Crone would like to say a few words tonight. Yes, come up
Yeah,
to
if
the
you don't
podium.
mind. Sorry.
First, I would like to say thank you. We really do appreciate it. And Jill Kozlowski was actually our fire dispatcher that handled the accident. So she did a very good job with that. Also, when we have big incidents like this, it's all hands on deck. So I would truly like to recognize each individual that was there. Every one of our 911 dispatchers and supervisors, because everybody just kind of backfills, I mean, and picks up the pieces to make the day go smoothly. So I truly do appreciate it, but I would also like to recognize each and every person that worked that day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll move into public comment. Does anybody have public comment on any non-agenda items? Mr. Griffith? Oh, the gentleman in front. Okay, go ahead, sir. State your name and your municipality.
My name's John Arnone Jr. in Hanover Township. And that's funny. We talked about disability, cancer, 911 and all that stuff in the prison. And I just so happened about 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I ran into a problem with somebody, and I didn't do anything wrong. West Pittston police showed up at my house Christmas Eve and locked me up. Fine. I went into my cell. They put me in a cell. This was COVID. My cell had crap in the toilet. All right. I asked them to clean it up. Okay. So now I have to go for my medical. Go into the room, go in with the nurses. I go in there, and I have cancer. I was doing light treatments 3 times a week. It's called mycosis fungoides. You have to feed me light. My doctor said I should go to the Caribbean and run around naked, but that's not good. So I go to jail, and I tell the nurse, I said, I have to do this cancer stuff. First, the guard's sitting there, he's hitting on the nurse. All right, he's hitting on the nurse, and I interrupted him. So he was a little upset. So I tell her I have cancer, and I say, call my wife. I'm standing there, I said, call my wife. I made a gesture towards the phone. I got jumped by 2 guards. By the time it was done, it was 6 guards. Okay, 6 guards tackled me, put me on the ground, and locked me in a chair. All right, now, they broke my finger. I don't want to sue nobody. I don't want to do nothing. All right, they broke my finger. All right, I got put in solitary confinement for 25 days. No phone calls, no nothing. All right, I am not a criminal. A lot of people in this county pointed out that way. When you read up there, it says the desire for the truth, accountability, and openness. That's what this county is supposed to be about. All right? Well, it doesn't happen that way. It doesn't happen that way. And you know what I did? I took my licks, and I went home, and I just did what I had to do. All right? There was many challenges I was up against. I was on the news. It was terrible. They discredit me. I worked hard all my life. My family was very, very creative. My father was the head of the union and the operating engineers. That's why I fight so hard for the employees and stuff. And I had a problem, and because somebody didn't want something said. So then 911 gets involved.
Thank you, sir.
All right, I have to go?
Yeah, apologize.
All right.
Yeah, your 3 minutes is up.
All
But you
right.
can certainly address this with us
Oh,
privately
I'll be
if
here.
you'd like.
I'll be here because
Okay.
911 had
Okay.
50 phone calls that they had to get rid of because I couldn't use them for
Okay.
my trial.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Griffith.
Good evening. Kudos to 911 also on their efforts for that. I'm sure that was a pretty busy day, very, very busy. My reason for standing here is the issue on the agenda, item 9, introduction of ordinance by county manager. The charter does not allow the manager to introduce an ordinance. That's a council function. If you read the charter, the only issues that the manager can bring to council is the annual budget that doesn't require 4 votes. Please be aware of what the charter states, and I don't know if I'm incorrect in my assumption of the charter, but if the manager brings an ordinance, it's an ordinance for the budget, or it's an emergency ordinance of some nature. She certainly can guide the council and ask them to bring an ordinance, but does not have the ability to bring an ordinance, and certainly is not introduced automatically. Those 2 ordinances you folks just heard need to be introduced according to our charter. requires 4 votes. Council has to have 4 votes on every ordinance to introduce it, and then once it's introduced, then council can vote on it. Read your charter, section 211. So I think the ordinance is a good ordinance. I just think the procedure needs to be followed better for council. So it's done properly, so nobody challenges the ordinance at some point along the way. I think it's a procedural thing that council needs to just be aware of. The manager does not have the ability to bring an ordinance to his council. That's a council function. So, I mean, unless the Office of Law can correct me on that.
There are certain ordinances that she has the ability to auto-introduce, including fiscal ordinances.
Could you show me in the charter where that says that? Because in section B, it says, it's specific, it says specifically, in section B, if the proposed ordinance fails for 4 votes, it doesn't get considered. It says proposed ordinances dealing with the annual budget, long-range operational, fiscal, and capital plan, administrative code, accountability code, personnel code, and any other matter the county manager is required by this charter to submit to county council in the form of a proposed ordinance shall be considered automatically introduced.
Yes, these are 2 budget amendments dealing with the annual.
It doesn't say budget amendments, it says annual budget.
It's dealing with the annual budget. It doesn't say,
That's a stretch at best.
no, it does not say introduction of the annual budget only.
So if the manager,
Dealing with the annual
so if the
budget.
manager wants to amend the budget, that's an ordinance that she can bring.
It's auto-introduced, and then it's
No.
up to a
No,
majority.
that is not correct. Absolutely.
I disagree with you.
Well, you could disagree, but that's not what the charter says.
I disagree.
And it's never been done before, ever.
Yes,
Where?
it has.
Where has it been done?
When Dave Pedri was county
Okay.
No.
All right. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Griffith.
I'm in favor of the ordinance, to be clear.
Okay.
It's just a procedure that I don't want the manager in the future bringing ordinances to council.
All
I
right.
don't think that's appropriate.
Thank you, Mr. Griffith. Anybody,
many times.
anybody else for public comment? Anybody on the Zoom? I think there was a hand up. Go ahead. The phone number.
Mr. Chairman, this is Mark Rabo speaking of Hazleton.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to follow up with what Mr. Griffin, Controller Griffin said about, things, ordinances and, how it's not in concordance with the charter, and the assistant solicitor giving her legal opinion that basically inoculates any stretch of the charter language to comport with her opinion is par for the course with the Office of Law that goes rogue. And it's been going rogue for the past several years, especially when you have a solicitor of the Election Board and Bureau that admits that there was a violation of the law in terms of the submission of the casting of the lots, the date of the casting of the lots, which was way before what the election law stipulates. And then he says that the law was followed. That's like saying if it's raining outside, it's not really rain, it's just a leak from the gutter. I mean, this is just absurd to say that the election law hasn't been violated when it comes to the casting of the lots when was filed on February, according to, I believe it was February 6th and 7th. I don't have the dates in front of me as I'm on the road. But that's way before even the petitions were allowed to come out, were released by the Election Bureau. So therefore, Mr. Molino gave an opinion in conflict with the election law, specifically 2875. Now, I don't want to file with the disciplinary board or the state Supreme Court or the Attorney General's office, but my complaint has been withheld. And I'd like to know why, I actually want to demand to know why my complaint has been withheld by the Office of Law and by the Election Board and Bureau. Because if not, I will personally go down to Harrisburg and I will make sure they're aware of this. You got to stop playing games here, and you got to start following the law. Because I'm starting to really wonder how if this county actually cares about home rule or any kind of governance. This is getting ridiculous. straighten your acts up, please. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Rabo. Anybody else for public comment? Anybody on the Zoom? All right, is there a motion to adjourn? Motion, second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, meeting is adjourned at 6:32. We'll restart at 6:40.
Recording stopped.
That.
Well, if it check one.
All right, everybody. It's 6:40. We're going to get started here in a second. If everybody could take their seats. All right.
I was dying for a cup of Joe. Falling asleep too.
Okay, it's 6:41. I'd like to call this work session to order. We already have done the Pledge of Allegiance in the moment of silence.
Recording in progress.
Roll call, Ms. Lawrence.
Mr. Haas?
Here.
Ms. Krishnowski? Here. Mr. Liscavige? Here. Ms. McDermott? Here. Mr. Perry? Here. Mr. Sabatino?
Here.
Ms. Smith?
Here.
Ms. Stevenson? Here. Mr. Thornton?
Here.
Mr. Wilovich?
Here.
Mr. Lombardo?
Here.
All present?
All right, thank you. Any additions or deletions from the work session agenda? Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So
Adopt
moved.
it?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, the agenda is adopted. Number 1, we have receive and discuss division reports for February 2024.
Good evening, Council. I want to start off by saying we had our first town hall meeting, and I want to thank all of the council members that attended. It was in Nanticoke, and I want to thank the city of Nanticoke for hosting our first town hall meeting. The next town hall meeting will be in Hazleton on May 6th at the Hazleton Integration Project, and I hope everyone attends. Just to highlight some of the things that are going on with your staff, our IT department not only worked on putting in these new microphones into this room, but they are an integral part of the New World Integration project. They set up all the computers and the software that's necessary for our offices in Hazleton. They are also doing all the software and the data networking for our 44th Air Reserve Building. And they are also working on the ARPA-funded network infrastructure all at once. And I want to thank them for all the work that they do. I don't want to steal Mary's thunder next meeting for her budget and finance report, but we're still working on getting the highest interest rates available, and as of February, the interest income earned was $479,929.31. Of that, $300,541.98 was our ARPA interest. I also want to give kudos to our Sheriff's Department. During the last month, they received and served 123 PFA petitions. They did 279 total prisoner transports. They did 203 warrants were issued. 231 warrants were cleared. They processed 559 gun permits. They received and served 477 civil documents. They closed 383 civil cases, and the persons through designated security checkpoints were 22,940. They do yeoman's work every day, and I want to thank them as well. This is Must Be 911 night. I just want to note that we have 50 full-time telecommunicators with 9 vacancies. And today we received that our 911 was chosen to be featured in a training video that will be shown to educators across Pennsylvania. So kudos to them as well. And of course, if there are any questions about this report or anything else, please reach out to me, reach out to our division heads, and we'll get you the information. And I'd like to thank Council Members Sabatino and Stevenson. They did tour of 911. And I encourage everyone, if you have an opportunity to get over to 911, it's really impressive. And occasionally, they have really good food over there, too. So thank you.
Any questions? All right, thank you, Manager Crocomo. Number 2, discussion regarding the resolution providing for tax exemption for new construction in deteriorated areas under the Local Economic Revitalization Tax Assistance Act for Hazleton Logistics. Whoever would like to come up and speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the council. Kevin Lee with the Polsinelli Law Firm out of Kansas City, appearing tonight on behalf of Flint Development and their project-specific entity for this development, which is Hazle LLC. First of all, thank you all for having us. We've been working to get in front of you all for some time now, and are here to check the box, if you will, of having the Luzerne County Review Board have the opportunity to look at this and discuss the project and answer any questions you may have. I apologize in advance as I'm going to jump around a little bit on you in the PowerPoint here, and I believe you all have a copy, as it looks like, but we do have extras if anyone needs those. So a little bit about Flint. I'll start on the slide 7, I believe, in your packet. Flint is a real estate development firm based out of Kansas City. A fairly young company that was formed in early 2020, right in the midst of COVID, albeit by 2 founding partners with substantial experience, 50 plus years combined between the 2, working for another firm before they decided to get together and start Flint, and really based on the thesis of capitalizing on the heavy market demand in the spec industrial space. So since that time, we've really run fast and hard all across the country. We're in 17 markets now with, I believe, just under 12 million square feet completed, another approximately 12 million feet under construction, and total estimated value between what's under construction and in the pipeline, just north of $1.5 billion. They have, as part of those efforts, identified this site, which is approximately 65 acres of former mine-scarred land in Hazle Township, right off of Route 924, at the northwest corner of 924 and Chestnut Hill Drive. And that was back in, I believe, late 2021, and started the due diligence and entitlement process back then, and have been working diligently on all of that for some time, and closed on the site in Q2 of 2022. Flint also has experience and is doing projects in the multifamily space, but really specialize. Oh, perfect. I did not notice. See if I can figure this out. So this is a vicinity map of the project site, as was mentioned, around 66 acres off of Route 924. The project that we're looking at is approximately 800,000 square feet of Class A industrial, and that's between 2 different buildings, one just under 600,000 square feet and the other north of 200,000. Truly Class A. What you think of when you hear that. Flint really takes a lot of pride in what their product looks like and views that as one of their competitive advantages in going out and seeking tenants to occupy these. So being as it is with proceeding with speculative development, and meaning where construction occurs before leases are in place with tenants, that's important. Equally important is the bottom line and what the tenant's really looking at. Probably the single biggest factor that goes into that is taxes. And so that really enter the LRTA request, and in that triple net structure, tenants pay 100% of taxes and thus realize 100% of any savings or exemption that's granted. So it's really about being competitive and making sure that we have a successful project with the other competitive developments in this area and region. I believe that the requested LRTA schedule is the same schedule that was recently considered and approved by this council on two other projects, one by North Point and one by JVI. So it's a 90% exemption for the first 7 years, and then descending scale at the rate of 10% per year thereafter. So there's, with that 10% for that first 7-year period, there's a significant increase projected to all taxing jurisdictions, including the county. So this is a summary sheet here based on those projections. So we went and pulled comps for comparable projects around the area and came up with what we think these are likely to go on the tax rolls at completion. And that's how we're arriving at these numbers. So the pre-acquisition, pre-development taxes to all jurisdictions were just shy of 20,000, of which the county share was around 6,000. We project that goes up to more like 30 or 40,000 even in the first year of the LRTA exemption, and then we'll grow with inflation thereafter and really start kicking off real dollars come as that schedule starts to go down, with 340,000 after the LRTA term expires, and ultimately coming up with right at $4 million of tax revenue to the county over a 20-year period after the LRTA. As it stands today, so as was mentioned, we have been working on this project for quite some time and are now at the point where we've completed due diligence, secured entitlements, and broke ground recently and are out there. They're going away. And so we have the township and school district LRTA approvals. The latter is tied to the outcome of the county's action. And so we really view this as the final piece of the puzzle to really continue full steam ahead, marketing efforts, construction efforts combined, and have a really successful project. So with that, I should have mentioned and forgot to, but I also have Jim Trigg, one of the directors of development for Flint, here with me, and him and I are happy to stand for any questions you have.
Go ahead, Mr. Liscavige.
So my question is, has anybody looked at the approaches for Route 81 currently? So when this opens, because I travel that corridor every day, and at 6 o'clock in the morning, that ramp is backed out on 81 now. What's going to happen when that space opens with provisions to accommodate more traffic?
So we did complete a traffic study as part of the approval process, and are completing some improvements in connection with that. Our project did not have any measurable impacts to 81 that triggered improvements there. They're more local in and around our site, but we did not have any significant concerns that were raised as part of that traffic study for impacts from our project and projected traffic.
It's hard to believe. Sorry. That's hard to believe because seeing that every day, they're probably on 81, I know for a fact because I see them every day, and they're probably a half a mile on the inner lane. So they can't even get up the ramp, probably for a good 10 minutes at that red light.
So you're talking about the condition of the road as opposed to the level of traffic, or both conditions?
So it's a short ramp coming up to that red light to make a left or to go to your property over the bridge. And traffic's already backing out on 81 in the morning. So with this, I'd have to believe that there's gonna be some kind of improvements that have to be made. And I'm in favor of this, just so you know, but I see that every morning. It kinda scares me that traffic gets pushed out onto the highway that far.
It's a valid point, and what I would say is that we did study it, and so based on the traffic impact, we're doing the improvements that were recommended. To the extent that there are significant issues and we are contributing to that, I think we're always going to come to the table and work with the the authorities to figure that out. But at this time, we're not anticipating huge impacts from our project. Jim,
And we have that traffic study that we can make available for everybody to look at if they would like to review it.
That's what I was just gonna ask you for, because I'd like to see that.
Yeah, that's no problem.
Mr. Thornton?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have several questions, and just off the top, I'd like to say I'm generally in favor of these LERTAs, because I look the big picture down the road, and to put nothing on this site would produce hardly any taxes for the county going forward. So to put something there, year one, we still greatly improve or increase the tax revenue the county's getting, and the school district and the local municipality. So I'm generally in favor of these, especially 10 years down the road, where it evolves into millions of dollars of taxes for the county. So, but having said that, you know, in the last several years, this council has issued several LERTAs to different developers, as you mentioned, plus there were some others. Miracle Corporation is a big one. He's actually the largest taxpayer to Luzerne County in the county. The same questions keep coming up from the public, so I'm going to take the liberty to ask them now on behalf of the public. One is, and I'm sure you probably consider these and maybe already have clearances, any environmental concerns on that land?
No, no, sir.
So DEP already cleared everything and permits have been
Yes, sir.
secured from DEP?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What types of jobs and tenants would you people be looking for? Like low-grade warehouse jobs, lower pay, or are you looking for the type of tenants that produce technical jobs? Like we have one big, large warehouse in one of the developments. It's all medical technical jobs, hundreds of them in one building. Do you know what type of tenants you're looking for or what type of jobs?
So I'll let Jim give a little more context. Given that it is spec, we don't know exactly who the end users will ultimately be. We designed the buildings with flexibility in mind so that we can accommodate a wide range of that. Generally, what we see is that on average, and it varies widely, obviously by jurisdiction and project, but that we end up with a job count somewhere in the range of, we'll cut 1 per 2,500 square feet, for example. And so our initial projections were around 350 jobs, full-time employees, and then obviously significant temporary construction jobs from that as well. Jim, I don't know if you want to add color to the
tenant side. So yeah, I mean, typically it is going to be, we'll be approached by brokers, you know, with tenants to come to us and see their RFPs, requests for proposals. Typically, it could be, you know, some sort of warehousing type work. Can we talk about the building next door?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so you guys have a building right next to us, which is Niagara's bottling facility. We are working with them with one of our facilities currently. It will be a storage type facility that will accommodate their current facility. That's for the larger building that we're currently working through that with. But yes, I mean, it will really depend on what's provided to us with what that'll end up being. But you've seen some of our, I believe we show in our packet there, several of our tenants that currently have purchased or leased buildings with us. In there, there's General Motors, Niagara is listed in there, I believe. Is it not in there? I saw it somewhere.
I don't know if we have that sheet in this PowerPoint.
Okay, all right. So obviously, you didn't build the structures yet, correct?
We are under construction on the first building.
Okay, so the design is already made, completed?
Correct.
Yes, sir.
So you know how many, I'm wondering how many truck bays there'll be. Is there 20, 50, 100? That would be an indication to me of what kind of truck traffic is expected, because I'm going to dovetail off Mr. Liscavige's concerns, which are always the concerns of the local people who have to, you know, live in the area there. Do you have any idea in the plans that you have designed how many truck bays there will be?
I don't have the exact numbers off the top of my head, but I do know the Niagara building that we're currently working on. It has 20 active positions. It does have other docks equipped for that.
Is that the smaller structure? Or
no, that's actually the larger
The larger
structure.
600,000 square foot?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we'll get you that answer as well.
Yeah, we can get you the exact.
You could email the county manager here and she could forward it to council.
absolutely.
Yeah. And the last thing,
I think the original one had 120 originally is what it had on it, the
Okay.
larger building. But we can get exact numbers for you.
okay, thank you. And the last question I have is, we at the county here continuously run into the same issues, and many years before I've been here on this body, somehow, the county ends up having to take care of all of the roads in these developments, in these corporate parks. And because of the heavy truck traffic, the roads don't last very long at all. And in some of the developments, we have an enormous amount of littering from the truckers along the roadways. And it costs this county here an enormous amount of money to maintain a heavy-duty road for heavy-duty trucks. Is there any plans now with your group to maintain the roads, or is that something the county's just gonna have to take care of for years to come?
So I couldn't quote the exact requirements off the top of my head, but we do have a recorded restrictive covenant, essentially, or declaration type document with the township, as well as with Can Do. There are agreements in place, and so I think I would say it's a hybrid. It's not the latter, that it's entirely on the county, but it's also not entirely on the developer. I think it will be a collective effort as those roads wear down. Obviously, it's in our interest and in our users' interest that the site be maintained and that the infrastructure around it be maintained.
Yeah, if you could forward any covenants you have in place already, I'd love to see them. That'd be great, because it's always a very costly venture for the county. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Smith? Go ahead.
Hi. Vice Chair asked you some questions, and the second question you didn't really seem to get at the heart of. He asked you what kind of employers and what kind of jobs you generally bring in, what kind of quality. He didn't ask for a number. You gave a number. Can you speak to the quality of jobs that you bring in? Are they general warehouse jobs? Are they medical professional jobs generally? We know you're not a wizard.
Right.
But if you could at least give us an idea.
Sure. So it's, I mean, again, it's just difficult to say when it's spec and you don't know yet. I would say it's not, our typical product is not going to be entirely medical technical users. We would certainly entertain that if a tenant came along. What's that? Right. There will be warehouse employees, I would imagine, for most storage and distribution type users. What we find is that between your kind of your warehouse workers and then the supervisors, we typically see around a $50,000 annual average wage combined across these facilities nationwide. And again, that varies greatly by location and the specific user and project. But as a general rule of thumb, that's kind of what we're looking to. In terms of, is that responsive to your question in terms of wages? Or, yeah, I mean, it's, and I wish I had a better answer for you. It's just really hard to say until we know.
So, I mean, facility, the larger facility we could speak to, that will be majority warehouse working.
Mm-hmm.
Since it is Niagara and they have the facility next door. The other one, to Kevin's point, we won't know who that is until we're approached by some potential buyers.
Mr. Haas?
Gentlemen, welcome to the Northeast. Welcome to Wilkes-Barre. I've been to Kansas before. It's like the land of sunflowers. I just remember lots of sunflowers driving out there. We are the land of warehouses up here in the Northeast. And I look at these projects, and I have a couple issues here, because obviously we're all about development. We just want development to adhere to the laws of economics with supply and demand. And what we have here, we have a lot of these KOZ programs, these opportunity zones, these LERTA programs, and they give away a lot of tax revenue. And it's just like Joanne asked if about the wizardry. We know it's the economy. Nothing's for sure. That being said, I'm looking at the Google Earth here, and the Humboldt is now the size. It's bigger than the footprint of Scranton, of Hazleton City. It's a giant mass of development there. My colleague talked about the traffic that we see coming out of there in the morning. I think we're pro-development. We want to make sure we're developing smartly and that there's need for it. You said there is a heavy market demand up here. Your firm is going to invest $75 million into the county, And I'm scratching my head a little bit here, because if there's such a giant demand, why do we need to give a tax break for this? And I'm asking, 'cause it's facetious, I know why. It spurs a client to come in and take this property and put feet on the ground. I get that. The thing is, when we look back and you reference this, this is the same schedule. If you see it, council, it's on page F. No, everything's page F. It's Flynn. It's on page 3. First year is 90%. For the first 7 years, 90%, and then it slightly scales down to a 60% in year 10. I was here when North Point agreed to this, and for those council members who weren't here, don't remember, North Point wanted to have alerta, but it was only an abatement in the last 3 years. They wanted no abatement for the first 7, and I said, can you meet us a little bit halfway here? And they said, okay, and they came up with this schedule. And some people in the audience remember this. It was North Point. That's where this came from. I'm humbly asking you, if you really want to partner with us, can you please adjust the scale for our next encounter? I would recommend, I would just suggest, I hope the council could entertain this. Could you have more of a true incremental program than this? Because this is very lopsided. And again, just because council has passed some of these in the past, doesn't make it right, nor does it make it fair. And we are at the heart of trade here in the Northeast. This is the gateway to New England. It's the gateway to all points south on 81. We're 2 hours from Philly, 2 hours from New York. This is the place to be. I really don't think we need any alerta whatsoever, because if you remember the old movie, Build It and They Will Come, they're here. And you can see it on the ground. So I don't mean to be theatrical here, but could you offer us anything that could make this a little more palatable for us?
My response would be that, to your point, because this was approved for North Point and others, if we vary from the schedule at all, we're putting ourselves at a direct competitive disadvantage against those projects and attracting users. And so, as part of our underwrite, we actually, rightfully or wrongfully, initially as part of our underwriting, we're planning on or hoping for a slightly improved schedule from this. And so we'd have to go back and look at the numbers is the honest answer. But just my gut is that that's a really, really tough call for us to make, given that we know what these other projects just got approved for. And that's so critically important when we're having these discussions with potential users, and they're looking at the bottom line at the end of the day, and they want to know, if I'm paying less taxes here and I can pick either site, I'm going to the one where I pay less, right?
No, I understand, and to your argument, North Point used the exact same argument with the previous schedule, and it's just the nature of the negotiation. And I think I made my point, and I don't think I can support this at all like this, just because the market demand is there, and people out there in the public are struggling. The average person showing, they're saying, "Where's my LERTA? Where's my incremental increase, or I guess tax decrease?" And we're not really helping them out. I get the long-term provisions, that makes total sense. But again, supply and demand, the demand is there, and we're tipping the scales a little bit to extra supply that I think is necessary. All right, so council, I think we can consider that, but
the demand is still there. I think that, it's about bringing the best and most desirable users that you guys want, we want, Township wants. The demand has, from the time we initially put this presentation together and submitted it, the demand has gone down a little bit. It's a tougher market out there for a number of reasons, as we've all seen and experienced in our everyday lives. I think totally get your point and agree with it that there's absolutely constant struggle and battling of a public perception of what incentives are and making sure that we explain that. And I think that the important part here is really the long term that you mentioned. If it was a 10-year, 100% exemption, that's obviously a different story. You're really investing all tax revenue for the next 10 years for a long-term benefit. With this request, because of that tiered that starts at 90, there's substantial benefit day one to all taxing jurisdictions to 2, 3, 4, 5x. And so I think that with the request as is, I think there's still a substantial benefit to be realized here. And so we would ask you to reconsider, and of course would be interested in hearing what the other board members have to say.
And if I could too, Mr. Chair, just so the council, and especially the new members, that the different taxing bodies, we don't have to have a uniform LERTA. And we've done that before as well, that the school district and the local municipality have also had varying levels of that. So we've seen that many times as well, just for everybody's knowledge. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move into public comment. Mr. Rabo?
Howdy all in person. Mark Rabo, Hazleton. First of all, to the gentleman's point about the Alerta and the Hazleton logistics, and Mr. Lescavich, kudos to you for bringing up the traffic. I drive that every day as well. And let me tell you something, that traffic, especially with the 6 warehouses coming, as I said, when Mr. Miracle was here with the Alerta, that traffic, they're going to need to expand 1 lane in each direction. They have to. There's no other way. Also, what about the turns? You know, the turns, Mr. Lescavich knows what I'm talking about. You know, the truck turns, the wide turns, you're going to have to widen those, you know, on the left lane and the right lane because you're going to have problems, especially on those, you know, those 4-way intersections, just like they do with the main Humboldt drag, you know, on the Can-Do Expressway. Mr. Sabatino probably knows what I'm talking about, Mr. Perry, so, and Mr. Lescavich. So I think that needs to be addressed. Also, one point that hasn't been brought up, the housing. What's going to happen with the housing? Because as my good friend over there, Mr. Perry, knows, there's the Heights Terrace now, as we speak, the Hazleton Council is voting on rezoning the terrace section and accommodating mixed-use properties to be developed, townhomes and affordable homes there. So my question would be, and your question should be to all these developers, how is this going to happen if you don't have the housing to accommodate for these commercial warehouses that are being developed? If there's not enough, you realize what's going to happen? You're going to have the same situation that Lehigh County's in. They're chasing behind the 8 ball, and they're desperate. Why do you think they reconstituted their county redevelopment authority? Which, by the way, thank you, Madam Manager, for your answer to the question in Nanticoke Town Hall meeting about the Blighted Committee. Mr. Thornton, though, need to understand something. The land bank is only for tax delinquent properties. The Blighted Committee takes care of all other blighted issues. Mr. Haas can attest to that. Madam Manager can attest to that. We were working on this for 1.5 years for the Blighted Committee. So, and I'm sure, Mr. Chair, you can ask the Pittston mayor, if he had to give up one or the other, I'm sure he would tell you he wouldn't give up any of those because they're both needed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rabo. Anybody else for public comment? Anybody on the Zoom? Motion to adjourn? Motion, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting's adjourned.
Only 13 after 6.
I know.
6:13.
So I was nice. I was nice. Yeah. What we might do now is